The staff is very upset at me because I just asked them. I mean, an accident could happen at any time. I wanted to know who was wearing clean underpants. Now I know, and it's probably too much information for me to know. I'm uncomfortable. Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. We have a hard-hitting question from Bill Press, and even a better response from the wordsmith that is our press secretary, Robert Gibbs.
Does the president, to your knowledge, even know what liberation theology is?
I don't know the answer to that. I will say this, Bill. A crude paraphrasing of an old quote, and that is, people are entitled to their own opinion, as ill-informed as it may be, but they're not entitled to their own facts. The president is a committed mainstream Christian. I have no evidence that would guide me as to that Glenn Beck would have any genuine knowledge as to what the president does or does not believe.
You're right. I don't have any genuine knowledge at all. I don't, because nobody ever answers any questions. It's kind of like that stuff. I mean, I can tell you where I got that crazy idea that liberation theology is not mainstream. Robert, I hope I didn't make up my own facts, unless maybe I'm God, because did I create this guy? Listen to what the founder of liberation theology says it is.
The only way in which your repentance, your forgiveness can be authentic, your reception of it can be authentic, your repentance can be authentic, is that you give back what you took. And white people took a lot from black people.
Gosh, that doesn't sound mainstream. You know, okay, I know about this guy. We all know about this guy. This guy runs a church based on what the last guy just said, liberation theology. Got it? We know about this guy. Now, if it was a mainstream Christian church, I think probably the president would have left that church. He left that guy. And then he found another preacher. And unfortunately, his other preacher, who he claims is a really close friend to him and advises him on stuff, is another preacher of liberation theology, someone Obama calls a dear friend, and here's what he says.
And I'll be damned if I'm going to sit back while you tear down Farrakhan and Jeremiah Wright. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you seek to reduce Jeremiah Wright, who's one of the greatest biblical scholars this nation has, to a 30-second soundbeat and try to demonize him and trivialize him? You cannot do that.
Now, that doesn't happen in my church, but maybe that happens in everybody else's church. Maybe it's just me. Or it's just really bad luck that the regular pastor at Obama's church said stuff that wasn't mainstream, and then that wasn't mainstream, and then you've got the advisors that aren't mainstream, and the whole thing is based on liberation theology by Cohn there, who we started with. And I'm sure it's just me. Look, I'm not challenging anybody's faith. Not challenging anybody's faith. I'm trying to understand where policies come from. You know, you want to understand me, you have to understand that I'm a man that believes in God. That I'm a conservative. I mean, that was the first thing I think I told you on this program, or at least one of the first things. I'm a conservative. You need to know, I said, it's an opinion show. See, you need full disclosure to be able to figure people out. There are huge problems going on today. That's why we need full disclosure. What did the president say? More transparency, not less. That helps people understand. The border. A sheriff now says that the Mexican drug cartels control parts of Arizona. Why? Wouldn't you like to know? Would somebody be transparent and tell us how and why they're making these decisions? Our troops are still in Iraq and Afghanistan, except now they're military advisors, which I'm pretty sure is what we did at Vietnam, and that didn't work out well. We have states and cities going broke, and they're firing police officers and firemen and teachers first when there's other stuff to cut. Why? Transparency. Can somebody tell us why? More people are on government assistance. Homeless population in New York City is up 50%. The economy is still tanking. Unemployment is still high. And yet we're making decisions that don't make any sense. So all I'm trying to do is figure out how are we making these decisions? And the people who are informing us, or who are supposed to inform us, keep America informed on everything that's going on, I mean, they can't even figure out what this is. They're still going, well, I don't understand what happened at the media. Maybe I should start speaking slower. This was about honor. I mean, how are we supposed to fix things when they can't even understand faith, hope, and charity? The weird thing is that they understood this hope. I mean, I didn't understand. Did you understand it? I kept saying, wait, what does this mean exactly? I couldn't understand the cryptic smoke signals of the Obama change campaign. There were no specifics. Do you remember that? But they could figure this out, but they can't figure this one out. Does anybody know? They're kind of similar. They got this one, but this... Really? It's beyond their wildest comprehension. You know why? Because they speak the same language here. They don't here. It's not that difficult, really. See, I generally don't hide my language and what's going on. I tell you straight up, faith, that's Sam Adams. That's because he was a guy. Read Sam Adams. Read his words. You can't have a country really stay on the track without faith. You can't have a country without truth. That's hope. And you can't have a country in a small government without charity. That's Ben Franklin. It doesn't get more complex than that. I'm not questioning anybody's faith or anything. I'm just trying to understand the world we live in. And I'm trying to understand, please explain in terms that people who don't speak liberation theology language or oppressor-victim language, which is that is, explain it. I mean, I'm sorry, we're not all Marxists. Here's one of my favorite quotes from the Washington Post in the faith section. This is their latest on trying to explain this. Is Glenn Beck preaching Mormon restoration theology? Uh-oh. Now, this is a stellar piece coming from a guy who's your run-of-the-mill Catholic, or at least that's what he says, who doesn't let any politics get in the way of the things he believes. Like when he was reporting on Senator Ted Kennedy's funeral, he said that the most Catholic part of the Mass was when Kennedy's grandchildren asked for universal health care. I used to be a Catholic. I don't think that's actually part of the Mass, but maybe. Have they changed it? Here's what he writes. I think Mr. Beck is preaching Mormon doctrine of restoration. The first Mormon, Joseph Smith, was both the head of the church and a likely candidate for president of the United States. His idea was to restore America to Christianity by rewriting the laws of the nation according to what God told him. In sum, restoration theology is a theocracy. Oh, man. I was this close to establishing a theocracy, and I would have gotten away with it, too, if it wasn't for those pesky kids. Yeah, that faith section in the Washington Post. Wait a minute, the faith section of the Washington Post. Oh my gosh, isn't that the same section that Jim Wallace is a part of? Yeah, I think it is. Anywho, what I really wanted is a theocracy. I mean, a small government guy, a libertarian, of course, theocracy comes right to mind. Yes, I think we'd be better off if we were run like Iran, where they bury people up to their necks in sand and then throw rocks at them because they're different. Who isn't, really? I was this so... I had the bikes on the way to your house. Baptismal camps all over the country. Oh, yeah. America, really? I mean, these guys actually think that... You're getting sleepy. Small government. If you really believe in small government, if you're a libertarian, what does that require? It requires that you self-regulate yourself. Well, how do you do that? Critics have spent the last year calling me anti-government. Nancy Pelosi cried on TV because of all of the anti-government rhetoric going on. I'm not anti-government. I'm anti-big government. Suddenly now I'm looking for a religious takeover of the government, so it's big, huge. How do you guys sleep at night? Or are you just so oblivious to things you're just like, I don't know how the media does it. Let me quote Benjamin Franklin. Media's watching. Benjamin Franklin. He was a founder. He actually wrote to the president of Yale, and the president of Yale said, how do you define the American religion? This is it, America, this is it. Franklin said, I believe in one God, creator of the universe, that he governs it by his providence. He ought to be worshipped, that the most acceptable service we can render to him is doing good to his other children, that the soul of man is immortal, and that we'll be treated with justice in another life, respecting the conduct of our souls in this one. He said, I take that to be the fundamental principles of all sound religion. So, America's religion. This is it, gang. This is all you need to know. There is a God. He's going to judge us. We should be good to each other, because Daddy's going to be pissed in the end if we're not. That's it. That's called a big principle. I don't think we even have principles in much of Washington anymore. That's the problem. And that's why the charge of theocracy. Really? That's why on the stage on 8/28, Jews, Muslims, Catholics, evangelicals, Mormons, and representatives of all faiths on stage. Why? Because we can agree on those basic principles. God lives. He's going to judge us. Be good to people. That's it. Now, how does this all fit in? Because now people are also saying, well, Glenn Beck's talking about faith. Yeah, I've been talking about faith and charity for about a year now. I've only read one piece so far that pretty much nailed it. One. And it comes from a guy I've never even heard of, completely unknown blogger. I have no idea who this person is, what their politics are, what they've written in the past. He could be a serial killer. I don't know. But this is one post that actually gets it. It's short and to the point, so I want to share some of it with you. Take notes, Huffington or Washington Post. You're about to get a lesson now from user Lexington Green on chicagoboys.net. They get it. Here it is. The Glenn Beck rally is confusing people. Why? Because he's aiming far beyond what most people consider to be the goalposts. Someone who asks what the rally has to do with the 2010 election is missing the point. Beck is building solidarity and cultural confidence in America, its Constitution, its military heritage, its freedom. This is a vision that is despised by most people who have long held the commanding heights of the culture. But it's obviously alive and kicking. Beck is creating positive themes of unity and patriotism and freedom and independence, which are above mere political or policy choices, but not irrelevant to them. Political and policy choices rest on a foundation of philosophy, culture, self-image, ideals, religion. Change the foundation, and the rest will flow from that. Defeat the enemy on that plane, and any merely tactical defeat will always be reversible. Showing the people who believe in God and practice their religion, key, are fellow citizens who share political and economic values with majorities of Americans is a crucial step. The idea that these people are an American Taliban is laughable, but showing the fact to the world and to potential political allies who are not religious is critical. Beck is attacking the enemies at the foundations of their power. Their claim to race as a permanent trump card, their claim to civil rights movement as a permanent model to constantly be transforming a perpetually unjust society. Ronald Reagan said we would not defeat communism, we would transcend it. Beck is aiming to have America do the same thing to its decaying class of overlords. Transcend them. Beck is prepping the battlefield for a generation-long battle. As Ronald Reagan said, there are no simple solutions, there are simple solutions, just no easy solutions.